So I'm going to be resuming my once and future Duke. It was only later, when he had to contemplate the consequences of his loss, that he became contrite. Having just settled a very large gambling loss, Jack felt fully in the right, dragging his brother out of the club before he could incur another one, which Jack realized with fury he was quite likely to do. Philip was playing hazard, a game of almost pure chance. Wow. He turned on his heel and brushed by Dashwood as he strode into the room. "If I must lose," Philip declared gallantly as he drew nearer, "at least I'm losing to the most beautiful woman in London." The crowd around him laughed in boisterous appreciation. "Idiot," Jack seethed, barging through the crowd. "You don't have to lose. You just have to stop playing." Dashwood would cancel his membership if Jack refused to pay this debt. In fact, Jack would have no qualms getting his brother's gaming privileges revoked across London. He accepted that his life was to be given in service to the Ware estates, but damned if he'd beggar himself selling Philip's debt. He reached the front of the crowd, unfortunately opposite his brother, oblivious to his glowering presence. Philip gave an extravagant bow and held out the dice to a woman, the same woman in crimson who'd been playing cards earlier with Philip's feckless friend. "Thank you, sir," she said, her words colored with laughter. "It's always a pleasure winning from you." She turned to face the table and raised the dice to brush her lips over them. "5," she called, naming her mark and managing to make it sound seductive before she made her cast. The crowd gave a boisterous huzzah, but Jack's gaze was locked on her. Not beautiful in the classic sense, but mesmerizing. Her face was a perfect oval, her eyes the color of sherry. A silver locket hung on the black ribbon around her neck, and when she leaned forward to collect the dice again, Jack got a glimpse of her bosom, threatening to spill over the crimson fabric. She straightened and gave Philip a flirtatious glance as she made her second cast. Jack managed to tear his eyes off her in time to see the focused interest in his brother's face. Two thoughts careened through his mind. First, that she was a siren of old, as brazen as brass and as wily as a serpent. Philip was so busy staring at her bosom, he didn't even notice how badly he was losing. And second, Jack wanted her. And that's the end of this first chapter. As you notice, I laughed through it all. The way they're setting up this Vega Club and this woman in crimson and, rival brothers, it's all very, very alluring. It's really draws you in. And as you see on the front, there's a woman in a red dress with a card. So I love it when the covers speak volumes, because although we say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, we often do. I often do. When you're shopping for books, especially at a thrift or a flea market, you need to be drawn by the cover. Otherwise, what's the point in purchasing it? I mean, if it has your author on it, sure, your favorite author, and you're already familiar with the works. But if you're not familiar with anything, you're going to think about, what did this author choose to put on the front cover? And how does that speak to the words in the book? And also, titles. My once and future Duke. I hate those little silly titles, typically ones that are really punny. Anything with love, anything with my love, anything basic like this, I typically are more drawn to. But for the sake of this project, I kind of did things randomly. So I hope you enjoyed this review of my once and future Duke. And I would totally read the second chapter. I'm intrigued by all of the elements presented in the first chapter. And I'm finding that the longer chapters that I'm reading don't really pull you in as deep. And they're laying groundwork for God knows what. But all you have to do is entice the reader a little bit. Give them a little bit. Preview some things to come. And this book is 372 pages. And I only read about chapter 1 starts on page 13 and it ends on page